Well, James Gunn has officially revealed the beginning of his new DCU slate. And unsurprising to me, it was completely underwhelming in every way. Let's discuss.
I watch so you don't have to.
Before I get started, I'd like to kindly ask that you hit the like button and please subscribe to the channel for more content just like this.
All I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
A couple of months back, when James Gunn was first appointed co-CEO of DC Studios, I did a video talking about comments that James Gunn once made in regards to him thinking the whole concept around superheroes was really stupid. And I simply asked the question, is this really the guy you want? Leading one of the biggest superhero brands in existence. Some people might say yes. Some people even told me that I was being too hard on James Gunn and that I should give his new DCU a chance. The problem with that philosophy is I've been waiting for James Gunn to impress me with anything for the past 10 plus years. And it never happened. So it's a little bit hard for me to believe that suddenly now he's going to be able to do that. To me, his brand of filmmaking, his brand of humor does not fit with the DC brand. To me, the proof is in his Suicide Squad movie, which is unwatchable. And because of that, I have zero interest in even giving Peacemaker a chance.
Not impressed.
The trend of deconstructing superheroes by purposefully making them look as stupid as possible has just never been appealing to me. I prefer my superheroes, my comic book characters, to be a bit more mature, a bit more nuanced. And no, that doesn't necessarily mean dark and edgy clown. That just means taking the character seriously and presenting them to the audience in a way that makes them interesting rather than just being quirky. And all of this is why I never really had faith in James Gunn. But now that I have a better idea of what his plans are, has my opinion changed at all? Well, James Gunn starts off his announcement video by saying DC has been disconnected in film and television for a long time, and it's his job to come in and make sure the DCU is connected in film, TV, gaming, and animation.
No, don't like that.
Now, the concept of connecting this universe and weaving it in and out of all these different mediums might have sounded appealing to me if it were 10 or 15 years ago. Where I'm at right now as a movie fan first, and unfortunately a DC fan in a distant second, I have zero interest in seeing any kind of shared or connected universe. Why? Because it's been done to death already. And in my opinion, it makes DC look even more weak and more dysfunctional because it looks like they're playing catch up once again. It already feels like they want the DCU to be the MCU. And as a DC fan, I can't think of a more undesirable situation. Let me be clear about this. I don't care how financially successful the MCU is. What they make yearly on their movies means absolutely nothing to me. What I care about is having deep and meaningful stories told to me. And if I've said it once, I've said it a million times, shared universes are a burden on creativity.
Man, I'm tired of being right.
They limit what you can do in the individual films, and force directors and writers to constantly work within these pre-established parameters. I just prefer my filmmakers to have a bit more freedom creatively. If we actually think about it, filmmakers have zero creative freedom in the MCU, and it feels like the DCU is going to be heading down a similar path. I've long said that I would prefer it if comic book movies return to the one-off format, or at the very least, the trilogy format. I would prefer if they just told their self-contained story and then moved on to something else. Now, the new DCU will have Elseworlds tales that will stand on their own, like the Batman Part 2 from Matt Reeves, which is in active development. But if it were me, those types of movies would be the blueprint and not the outlier. I want more The Batmans, I want more Dark Knights, I want more Jokers, and less forgettable films held together by Easter eggs and teases to future movies.
Anybody care about what I want?
I do.
Shut up. Get out.
Apparently the Shazam sequel and the Flash movie are still moving forward, and based on the reaction to the new trailer for Shazam, I honestly think most people could care less about that movie, so that's not exciting at all. And as for the Flash, this will apparently be the movie that will reset the DCU. Yet for some reason, all signs point to Ezra Miller most likely staying on as the Flash even after the reset. Of all the actors to keep from the previous DCEU, they are keeping Ezra Miller. Let that sink in for a moment. James went on to say that they have an 8 to 10 year plan of what they want the DCU to be. The first chapter of that new universe will be called Gods and Monsters. This is basically the DCU version of the MCU phases. Again, cutting and pasting what has already been done is not all that inspiring.
Whoopie do. Hey, I'm impressed.
The projects announced for Chapter 1 include an animated series called Creature Commandos, a live-action show based on Amanda Waller that will cross over with Peacemaker, and neither of those projects really interest me in the slightest. And Creature Commandos screams more James Gunn quirky characters and stories. He also announced Superman Legacy, the Superman film that they are moving forward with, written by James Gunn himself. This is the movie that pretty much put the nail in the coffin to any hopes of Henry Cavill one day returning to the role. But according to James Gunn, Henry Cavill was never going to be Superman moving forward, and his cameo in Black Adam was meant to be the end of his story. I think I speak for everyone when I say that is a load of bullshit. When was a cameo ever meant to be anything other than a lead-in to another movie? Other projects that were announced include Booster Gold, Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, and The Authority, all of which, again, I have no interest in.
I don't care!
Booster Gold is another one of those quirky characters that is right up James Gunn's alley, but I've personally never had a connection to the character, and he comes off more or less like another Ant-Man, and I don't really think he's deserving of his own series or movie. There were 3 projects announced that have the most promise in concept. But again, we have to consider who is in charge. A Lanterns series with Hal Jordan and Jon Stewart, Paradise Lost, a Game of Thrones style series set on Themyscira, and Brave and the Bold, a new Bat Family movie with the character of Damian Wayne as Robin already announced. Now, I've always been an advocate for a cosmic buddy cop style Green Lantern movie, and a 300-esque Amazon movie, and a movie that explores the Bat Family a bit more. But the real question is, how involved is James Gunn in these projects? And is he putting the right people in place to execute these concepts?
I want to ask you a bunch of questions. And I want to have them answered immediately.
Because as we all know, a great concept means absolutely nothing unless you have the right people in place telling those stories. Overall, I have to be honest, this whole slate, this whole 10-year plan was just very underwhelming to me. I feel that it's very been there, done that outside of a couple of standout concepts. When it comes right down to it, I just have no interest in sitting through yet another reboot and starting from scratch once again. What's weird about all of this is that every time the DC Cinematic Universe has tried to reboot or did somewhat of a soft reboot, most people, including myself, just clowned DC and WB for constantly showcasing their incompetence. Yet for some reason, magically, more people seem to be on board with this total overhaul. Now, I don't know, maybe people just want a clean slate, but I believe it has more to do with a built-in bias that extends from James Gunn's time with Marvel.
That makes sense.
Let's be honest, he's a Marvel guy. He fits the Marvel mold much better than he fits DC. And when it comes right down to it, I think a lot of people would be satisfied with an MCU carbon copy. But I am not satisfied with that because to me, Marvel and DC should not be treated the same way. I want more for these DC characters because they are capable of so much more. But once again, it looks like WB is underestimating what they have and trying to put a band-aid on a severed artery. Furthermore, I just don't think an interest in the DC brand is there from general audiences. People are tired of the instability, comic book movie fatigue is setting in, the damage to the brand has been done, and I don't think that James Gunn is the name that WB thinks he is.
I don't think it means what you think it means.
I just find it very difficult to place my faith in someone who doesn't understand or have any kind of love for these characters he is now in charge of. It's a shame because as a longtime DC fan, it really pains me to say this, but I've never been more disconnected from the brand in my life. I'll always have the old stuff to fall back on, and I will. But from my perspective, the future of the DC universe looks very grim.
Y'all be cool. Right on.